Hello, everyone. This is Samantha Garcia, and this is my presentation on the strategy Equitable Pacing for All. And this comes from the PSYOP section of Lesson Delivery. So, to get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So, I attended my LOT is Spanish, and in January, this past January, I attended CRLA, which is a Costa Rican language school in San Jose, Costa Rica, which was recommended to me by Fredonia, specifically Dr. Mahoney. Thank you for that because it was an amazing experience. Over here on the left, my father did come with me. So over here on the left is a picture of me and my father. The middle is me at the Irazu volcano. And on the right is some of my friends and myself that I met through the Costa Rican Language Society. So, yeah. So, getting started, what is equitable pacing for all? So, equitable pacing consists of being consciously aware of your speech and interaction while speaking to and teaching students. So, this strategy was interesting for me, and you'll see as we go on in the presentation that this strategy is more for the teacher in the sense of the fact that the students are not um, necessarily playing an active role in implementing this strategy. So you'll see as I explain that this is something for the teacher to do to monitor themselves to create a more efficient environment in the classroom. So the book lists 6 different ways to implement this strategy. So I'm just going to go through them quickly. So the first one is to record yourself. So you'd record yourself with only your voice, sort of like how I'm doing right now, making sure you're listening to pacing, tone, speech, and patterns. So the next one is to video yourself. Observe who you can call on and how often. What is your demeanor? And do you scaffold? So right there, that is an example of my realia. So as I am recording myself in this presentation, if of course that speed, I was doing that on purpose to model. But if I were to listen to this back and I heard myself speak that way, I would take a second to observe how I was pacing, my speech pattern, the speed in which I was pacing, and realize that when I talk at a more steady pace, as I'm doing right now, putting emphasis on certain words, it is definitely more efficient for students to listen and to understand what is being spoken. And I'm sure that you can agree after just hearing me do that. So the next one is to video yourself. So when you video yourself, you can observe who you call on, how often, what your demeanor is, and do you scaffold your students? So you're able to see the strategies that you have in class, subconscious impulses that you have to call on certain students. And this is something that we really do need to be aware of as teachers. So number 3 is to analyze your patterns of interaction. So a strategy that the book listed for this was to make a sheet for yourself that marks where all your students are in the classroom and keep track of who you are calling on. So you need to be very honest and open when you do this. So as you're marking, even if you notice that you're calling on somebody multiple times, obviously, if you're noticing that, make the change. But the point of this is to honestly mark who you are calling on, how often you are calling on them, and then review it and make your adjustments accordingly. So, what do you need to change? Who should you be calling on more? Who should you be calling on less? Stuff like that. So number 4 is to be judicious with your electronic timers. So this is something that I've noticed in the classroom as well, and I am guilty of it as well. I'm constantly setting timers to go to special, to finish an assignment, etc. And this can be a really great tool for time management, don't get me wrong, but it can also be a stressor for students, especially emergent bilingual students and also students who maybe are a little bit of lower academically or lower proficiency. It can be really stressful to put a time limit on the work that they're doing. So just be conscious about the electronic timers or just timers in general. So the next one, number 5, is to ask someone first. So invite students to consult a peer about a question before they ask you. If both of the students are unsure, they can write their question down. The book suggested on a sticky note, but of course this would work on anything. And when the teacher is available, they can ask you their question. So this helps with not interrupting. And then the students can move on while they're waiting for this question to be answered. And then number 6 is called Did This, Now Do That. So this would be having a preset list of materials for students to complete when they finish, um, if they finish sooner than their classmates. So an example that I actually have on the next slide is a choice board. Or I'm sorry, it's 2 slides from now. We'll get there. So I wrote a little note for this since all the strategies that we've been doing so far is things that the students are actually acting out. This strategy is a bit different. So since this is a more of a self-regulation strategy for the teacher to implement, there's not really a specific standard that I would think coincides with it. This is because this strategy really does work with any lesson topic, any lesson objectives, um, to be able to really work on your self-monitoring and self-pacing skills. So when looking at these content and language objectives that I provided, keep in mind that this can be used for any lesson. So when looking at the content that I provided was students will be able to add and subtract within 100 in written form. And for language, students will be able to read and comprehend the math questions with the use of translations when needed for word problems and write the answers to their math questions. And then I provided those in Spanish at the bottom as well. So, okay, here's the example of my choice board. So, I made this during my undergrad program. And after looking at the list of implementations for this strategy, I thought that this would be a great example. So, I'm just going to show it to you quick. So, this was made for grades 2 and 3. So, it's a tic tac toe choice board. This was implemented, or this was shown to me by Dr. Cynthia Smith at Fredonia. I had her for my mathematics methods class. Not sure if anybody is aware of her, but she's a great, great professor. And so, for example, this is what would the students would have on their computers. And if they wanted to choose online math practice, they would just click that. The directions are here. They have the video to watch, strategies, and then they would be answering these questions. And then they go back to the choice board and they can pick any of them. They can pick math antics, they can pick sprints, etc. They could pick this. So this was used to use with our peers. So of course you could change this. Like you wouldn't have the math standards in there. But this is just an example that I made of a choice board that worked really well and was really great. So why is this good for emergent bilinguals? So by being aware of your speech and demeanor, you're setting your students up for success. So as I modeled before, you're really not going to pick up what I'm saying when I'm speaking really fast like this and I'm talking and blah, 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 blah. Taking the time to really notice your pacing and be aware of the way that you're delivering materials to students allows for a smoother and more direct lesson delivery. Allowing students to have time to process the information, that's a big part of this. If you slow down your speech and give students time, they're going to be able to really process what is being given to you as opposed to being worried about catching up and backtracking. And lastly, once you've determined the strengths, your own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to your pacing, you'll be able to provide the most effective instruction for your students. So once you're able to watch back the videos and really dissect the way that you're delivering the lesson materials, you're going to be able to instruct your students and deliver material in a way that works best for them. So this is interesting as well, connecting to languaging. So when looking at it from the student's perspective, this strategy falls under the language skill of listening. And this is because students are listening to the lesson being delivered by their teacher. And I believe that this would fall under the discourse competence because students are always watching and modeling the adults around them. As educators, we know this. And when they listen to the teacher speak, they are learning the different patterns and words that the teacher uses. By modeling appropriate pace and self-monitoring while speaking, students are learning how to use language appropriately and effectively and efficiently to their peers in an educational setting, all the above. And here are my references. So I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to hearing your presentations. Thank you.